For today's presentation, the title of my topic is The Kadambas of Kalinga. Listening to many papers on the Kadambas of Banavasi in the west coast of India, and I shall take you to the east coast. The Kadambas of Kalinga are known to us from 6 copperplate grands discovered so far. They ruled over the Mahendra mountain region in the border of present Andhra Pradesh and Odisha, and they ruled from 9th to 11th century CE as subordinate chiefs of the Gangas, eastern Gangas. And of the 6 copperplate grands, 4 are from northern part of Andhra Pradesh, that is Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh, and 2 are from southern part of Odisha, that is the Ganjam and Puri districts of Odisha. And I have divided the paper into 3 sections. The first section deals with the purport of all the 6 or 7 inscriptions. Why I am saying 7? Actually, I am dealing with 6 inscriptions, but there is one more inscription in which the purport, the postscript of the inscription contains some information regarding the Kadambas. So there are all total 7 inscriptions which throw some light on the Kadambas of Kalinga. Now the first inscription is the Nirakarpur copperplate grant, and in this inscription, this is a very important inscription of 9th century AD. And in this inscription, it has been stated that Uday Khedi, the donor of the grant, is said to have been a son of Ugra Khedi, the grandson of Dharma Khedi, and the great grandson of Maharatoja Deva of Kadamba dynasty that migrated from Raya Banarai. He assumed the title of Samadhigata Pancha Mahasabda and ruled as a subordinate chief under the Eastern Ganga king Devendra Varman, son of Bhupendra Varman. It is also evident that he was a chieftain of Narendra Bhogo, which may be corrected with Mahendra Bhogo, and issued the inscription from Kalinga Nagara, and Kalinga Nagara has been identified with Mukhalingam in Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh. The inscription is not dated, but the Devendra Varman, the overlord of Dharma Khedi or Uday Khedi, is known to us from 2 of his copperplate grants, of which one is dated in Ganga era 397, equivalent to 895 CE. Thus, the date of the Nirakarpur copperplate grant can be fixed in the 9th century, late 9th century or early 10th century CE. Now, this is the Nirakarpur copperplate grant belong to 9th century, late 9th or early 10th century AD, and this is the first inscription which states directly about the existence of Kadambas in eastern part of Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. And prior to this date, there are 2 more inscriptions, and one is the Bijapattam plates of Eastern Ganga Devendra Brahman, and that is dated in 254 Ganga era, equivalent to 752 CE. And there is one more inscription, that is the Bhismagiri plates of Svetaka Ganga king Indra Barman, and this inscription belonged to the early part of 9th century. So before the Nirakarpur copperplate grant, which I stated earlier, there are 2 more inscriptions which state about the existence of, or there are some passing references to the Kadambas, existence of Kadambas in the Ganga dominion. And interestingly, in all these copperplate grants, the surname or the suffix of the proper names of the Ganga king, the Kadamba kings, is Khedi, Dharma Khedi, Ugra Khedi, Uday Khedi, Dharma Khedi, Bhima Khedi, like this. Now, both these records were issued prior to Nirakarpur plates, and from the Bijapattam plates it is learned that Devendra Barman registered the grant of a few villages in favor of the deity Dharmeshwara Bhattaraka at the advice of his maternal uncle. This is very important. It has been maternal uncle, and the word is So Matula Dharma Khedi. And the text in line 12 reads like this: So Matula Sri Dharma Khedi Khedina Dharma Upadesa Adhishtena. It seems very plausible that Dharmakadi erected a temple and named it after him. This piece of information prompts us to identify Dharmakadi as a member of Kadamba family and that the Eastern Gangas and Kadambas were matrimonially related to each other. We come across the name Nagakhedi as a Dutaka in another inscription, that is the Swetaka Ganga inscription. It has been mentioned that Nagakhedi was a Dutak and Mahasamanta under the Swetaka Ganga kings. So let me clarify that the Swetaka Gangas were another branch of, collateral branch of the Eastern Gangas who ruled in the northern part of the Eastern Ganga dominion of Kalinga. And since their capital was located at Swetaka, the name is derived as Swetaka Gangas. Historians call them as Swetaka Gangas. So from the three inscriptions I have already stated, the Nirakarpur copper plate grant, the Vijayapatnam copper plate grant, and the Swetaka Ganga copper plate grant, three important observations come to the fore. Firstly, the Kadambas were matrimonially related to the Eastern Gangas. Secondly, prior to their assuming bigger responsibility as subordinate chiefs, they held important administrative positions in the courts of the Eastern Gangas and the Swetaka Gangas, at least from the middle of the 8th century CE, because there is a dated inscription 752 CE. That's why I am stating that from the middle of the 8th century AD we get references about the Kadambas in Kalinga. Third important observation is that the personal names of the Kadamba kings of Kalinga ended with the suffix Khedi, Khedi. Now the second inscription, that is the Parlakhemdi inscription, was issued by Tarapa Raja, an agnate of Ganga ruler. He was ruling from Panchavishaya, and the title of the ruler was Panchavishaya Adhipati. And in this inscription, there is a postscript. And in the postscript of the Parlakhemdi plates, it has been stated that Ranako Udayakhedi donated a village named Homandi with its four boundaries fixed. The reference to Ugrakhedi and Udayakhedi in the charter, as well as the family name Kadamba, evidently puts us on a firmer ground that the two were Kadamba chiefs, and in accordance with the genealogy furnished in the Nirakarpur copper plate grant, Ugrakhedi and Udayakhedi may be identified as the father and son respectively. The third inscription is the Dura grant, and in which Udayakhedi, the same Udayakhedi, he is now titled as Ranako Udayakhedi, and this inscription was issued from a place known as Oneranga Nagara. It doesn't reveal the family to which the chieftain belonged and the name of the overlord under whom he governed the region. The charter records the grant of a village named Koleda in Madhupa Mandala, and this Madhupa Mandala has been identified with a place in Ganjam district of Odisha. Ranako Udayakhedi of the Dura plates was undoubtedly the same Udayakhedi mentioned in the Nirakarpur copper plate grant and the Parlakhemdi plates mentioned above, and he was a Kadamba chief under the Eastern Ganga overlord. Now, let me take into account the seals of these three inscriptions, the royal seals. The seals shouldered to, because these three inscriptions, Nirakarpur, Parlakhemdi and Duraka inscriptions, these three inscriptions, if you look at the seals of these royal seals of these three inscriptions, you will find some interesting features. And the seals bear the figure of couchant bull, a crescent moon, and a lotus flower on the counters of sunk surfaces. These emblems are noticed in Nirakarpur and Parlakhemdi plates and are direct adaptations of their Eastern Ganga prototypes, because the Eastern Gangas were the overlords of the Kadambas. That's why they imitated the seals of the Eastern Gangas and they tried to affix the seals in their own copper plate grants. While the Nirakarpur seal bears a legend, the Parlakhemdi seal contains the legend in one line. The Nirakarpur inscription doesn't contain any legend, but the Parlakhemdi copper plate grant contains a legend. Similarly, in the Dura plates, we come across an elephant god or Ankusha in addition to the other figures, but it doesn't contain any legend. Besides, the introductory portion of most of the inscriptions of the family are adapted from the Eastern Ganga records. All these evidences are sufficient to marshal the argument that the Kadambas of Kalinga were the subordinate chiefs ruling under the Eastern Gangas. This is the conclusion. Then the fourth inscription. What happened to the Kadambas of Kalinga after Udayakhedi is not known, but another dated inscription, that is the Mandasa plates of the time of Ganga Anantavarman, informs us about a Kadamba chief named Ranaka Dharmakhedi, son of Bhimakhedi. And this inscription is dated, and it is dated in Saka era 917, equivalent to 995 CE. Ranaka Dharmakhedi of this inscription is also called in the grant as a Panchavishayadipati and Mahamandaleshwara. Now you see the trajectory of these Kadambas of Kalinga. Initially they were subordinates, they were having some administrative positions, but by the end of the 10th century, in the year 995 AD, 95 CE, we are coming across the epithets like Panchavishayadipati, Mahamandaleshwara. These are much higher titles, and the one who obtained 5 great sounds, Pancha Mahasabda, he is also introduced as born in the spotless family of the Kadambas, Kadamba Mala Kula Kamala Martanda. This is the title. The charter was issued from Jayantipura. I repeat, Jayantipura. The Kadamba chief had granted a village in Panchapatra Vishar to 2 persons. At the present state of our knowledge, it is difficult to establish any connection between Dharmakhedi and the early group of Kadamba rulers in Kalinga. However, the Ganga overlord Anantavarman can be identified with Anantavarman alias Vajrahasta, who ruled over Kalinga roughly from 980 to 1015 CE. Now there is one more inscription, the 5th inscription. This Ranaka Dharmakhedi is also known to us from the Sihipura copperplate grant, which is dated in just, this is an important information. This inscription is Ganga Kadamba era. This inscription is, I repeat, this inscription is dated in Ganga Kadamba era, not Ganga era, Ganga Kadamba era, 520. It is the same Ganga era, but now you see the position of the Kadambas that is elevated in the beginning of 11th century, and they are now not using Ganga era but using Ganga Kadamba era. This is the only reference to Ganga Kadamba era in the entire corpus of inscriptions of the Eastern Gangas, and this is dated in 520, and 520 Ganga Kadamba era is equivalent to 1018 CE. This is the only grant where the era is called Ganga Kadamba era, and it should be borne in mind that this is not a separate era but the same Ganga era used by the Eastern Gangas of Kalinga. The addition of dynastic appellation of Kadamba to that of Ganga in the context apparently exhibits the amount of political importance the Kadambas had wielded in the administrative hierarchy. The Christian equivalent of the date, as I told you, is 1018 CE. The plates further reveal that during the overlordship of Ganga ruler Maharaja Devendravarman, son of Anantavarman, the Kadamba chieftain Ranaka Dharmakhedi, son of Ranaka Bhimakhedi and grandson of Niyarnabo, who was the governor of Panchavishaya, granted a village named Dharmapura, situated in Mahendrabhoga, to two Brahmanas. On the basis of the date of Mandasa and Simapura plates, the two inscriptions I just stated, it can be safely conjectured that Ranaka Dharmakhedi ruled during 995 to 1018 CE. Both the grants were issued from Jayantipura, the political headquarters of the Kadambas. It has been identified with the village of the same name in Chikiti Taluk of the Ganjam district. Earlier, the inscriptions were, in the early phase, the inscriptions were issued from Kalinga Nagari, that is Mukhalingam. That was also the capital of the Eastern Gangas. But here, in the 10th and early part of 11th century, we are coming across inscriptions which were issued from Jayantipura. Jayantipura is another administrative headquarters from which these two inscriptions, Mandasa and Sihimpura inscriptions were issued. Now coming to the next two more inscriptions like the Madagram and Kambakaya plates throw light on the Kadambas of Kalinga. The former was issued by Ranaka Dharmakhedi, son of Ranaka Bhimakhedi, son of Ranaka Dharmakhedi in the Saka year 998, equivalent to 1076, from the city of Dantipura, when King Devendra Varman, the Ganga overlord, was ruling over the entire Kalinga. Ranaka Dharmakhedi, the father of Dharmakhedi, may be identified with the issuer of Mandasa and Sihimpura plates. But the identification of, I'm now skipping this. Now, a similar problem is encountered in the case of Kambakaya plates of Udayaditya, who was another member of Kadamba family and son of Dharmakhedi. Like Bhimakhedi of the Madagram plates, he was also the governor of Panchapatra Vishaya. The territory ruled by the Kadambas was known as Panchapatra Vishaya. Patra means ministers, high ministers. And it was a Vishaya or district. Panchapatra Vishaya. And the Kadamba rulers were claiming themselves as Panchapatra Vishayadipati. And issued the charter from Dantapura. The record is dated in 1003 Saka era, equivalent to 1081 CE, when the Ganga king Devendra Varman was ruling over the entire Kalinga. At any rate, the genealogy of the Kadamba chiefs after Niyarnaba can be arrived at. Niyarnaba was succeeded by his son Bhimakhedi, then his son Dharmakhedi, the issuer of the Mandasa Sihimpura plates, assumed charges and ruled between 995 to 1018 CE. After him, his elder son Bhimakhedi ruled in the year 1066 or 76 CE. Later on, his younger brother Udayaditya ruled over the region from in the year 1081 CE. Nothing is known about the fate of the Kadambas after this date. The seals of the Mandasa, Madagram and Kambakaya plates look similar, and they contain the emblem of a feast. Earlier, in the early group of Kadamba rulers, in the seals of early group of Kadamba rulers, we are finding that they were the direct adaptations of Eastern Gangas. But now you see a peace emblem is affixed to the seal instead of the bull. The fish is placed in the middle of the two emblems and they do not contain any legend. However, the seal of Sihimpura plates is missing. Now, let me discuss the issues facing us from these 7 inscriptions. Now, the early rulers of the family assumed the title Ranaka and optionally Panchavishayadipati and issued their charters from Kalinga Nagara. And in the second case, we find there are 2 inscriptions from which we gather the information that the cittate to Jayantipura issued the inscriptions from Jayantipura. And the last 2 inscriptions, Madagram and Kambakaya copper plate grants issued in the 11th century AD, we find they were issued from Dantipura. The Kadambas were governors of a small territorial division called Panchavishaya or Panchapatra Vishaya, and this included other subdivisions like Narendra Bhoga or Mahendra Bhoga and Bhilinga Bhoga. Another point that merits attention here is the seal of Kadamba chiefs. Initially, they adopted the seal of their overlords like the couchant bull, crescent mule and lotus, but gradually there was an improvement in the addition of the emblems to the seal. But toward the later part of their rule, in the 11th century, they used their own emblem, that is Matsyalanchana, in the official charters and used the title Mandaleswara and Mahamandaleswara, installed their family deity Madhukeswara at Mukhalingam and named a political headquarters at Jayantipura, and it is after Vaijantipura, the political headquarters of Kadambas of Banavasi, and appropriated the Ganga era and used it as Ganga Kadamba era in their inscription, as in the case of the date of the Sihimpura plates. As usual, the purport of all the inscription is to record gift of land to different beneficiaries. The Nirakar copper plate grants informs us that 12 Brahmanas were given. Dura copper plate grant gives us information that 4 Brahmanas were donated. and Simpura grant is an important grant where 300 Brahmanas were donated the land. But the other three inscriptions, we find that Mandasa, Madagram and Kambakaya plates in the 10th, 11th century, we find that they were purely service grants, secular grants. They were donated to some military generals, and they were also, two of them were Karasasanas or rent-paying chapters. Now, there are some problems. Now, this is the right platform to gather some inputs. And one thing is that, so far as the origin of Kadambas of Kalinga is concerned, nothing definite is known about the origin of the Kadambas of Kalinga. The Nirakarpur Copperplate Grant, however, mentions that the family migrated to Kalinga from Raya Bonarai, and here we incline to identify Raya Bonarai of Nirakarpur plates with Banabasi or Vajantipura, the political headquarters of the Western Kadambas. On the basis of the Khedi suffix Khedi used by the Kadambas of Kalinga, T.N. Ramachandra opined that places with the name ending Khet or Khed are all found in the west, in the southern parts of the former Bombay Presidency. There are, for instance, as Manya Kheta, the present Malkhed, Khed and Ketoharo, the present Khed in Ratnagiri, and Khetaka. According to him, it would appear that these Kadambas migrated into Kalinga from west, from the district of Ratnagiri, Dharwad and Belgaum, the latter two districts having been under the rule of their brothers, the Kadambas of Hangal and Goa. It is possible that our Kadambas migrated from Khetahara Desa, which is said to be in the modern Khet Taluk in Ratnagiri district. Khetahara Desa finds mention in Goa Copperplate Grant of Pulakeshin II of Sakoira 532, equivalent to 610 CE. It might be that originally the Kadambas might have migrated from this Khetahara district, as their name ending Khedi would seem to suggest, according to Somasekar Sarma, though it is not possible to assert with any amount of certainty that the original home of the Kadambas of Kalinga was this Khetahara district. It can nevertheless be safely assumed that they migrated from Kalinga from west or southwest. Besides, the feast crest, peace emblem is significant, for it further strengthens the belief that regarding the original homeland of the Kadambas in the south. According to T.N. Ramachandran, of the Kadambas of Hangal and Palagsige in Dharwad and Belgaum districts, the former are said to have had as their capital Bairatapura, Biratanakote and Biratanagara, a name which according to the Mahabharata was given to the capital of the Matsya country. Probably Hangal country was also known by the name Matsya Desa, from where our Kadambas should have migrated, carrying with them the name Matsya by adopting the feast as their lanchana. Now the third point is that another telling sovereign in their family deity Jayanti Madhukeshwara, under the form of Madhukeshwara Jayanti of Banavasi, who was said by the Kadambas of Vajantipura, Palasige and Hangal. One of the inscriptions of the Western Chalukya king Tribhuvanamalla alias Vikramaditya VI, dated Sakat 1030, equivalent to 1108-09 CE, it has been stated that Mahamandaleswara Tailapa or Taila II was a feudatory chief who was governing the districts of Banabasi 1200 and Hanangal, and had acquired the excellent favors of God Jayanti Madhukeshwara Labdha Vara Prasadam. From the inscriptions of the Chodoganga Deva, it is learnt that Kamarnava, the son of Danannava of the Ganga family, constructed a temple for the god Madhukeshwara in Nagara, that is Kalinga Nagara, in Kalinga kingdom. Nagara may be identified with Kalinga Nagara, which is the same as the modern Mukhalingam in Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh. The temple was probably erected by the Ganga ruler at the instance of the Kadamba chiefs. Moreover, in the Skanda Purana, Mukhalingam is described as Jayanti Khetra. In the Skanda Purana, it has been mentioned as Jayanti Khetra, Madhukeshwara Mukhalingam. The existence of the god Madhukeswara in Kalinga and the subsequent prominence of the sacred space in the Puranas at Jayantikatra prove beyond doubt that the Kadambas of Kalinga had originally come from the southwest and carried their family deity to their new home. Now coming to the conclusion, in the light of all the above inscriptional data, we may conclude that like the western Kadambas who ruled over the Dharwad and Belgaum districts with their capital at Banavasi or Vaijantipura, the Kadambas of Kalinga might have come from southwest Karnataka. Initially, they established their matrimonial alliances with the eastern Gangas of Kalinga and later assumed important administrative responsibilities under the Ganga rule. From the 9th century onwards, they were appointed as subordinate chiefs under the eastern Gangas and ruled over the Mahendra region, Mount Mahendra region. Although in their earlier records, they used the Ganga emblem on their charters, later they used the fish emblem or Matshalanchana and were responsible for the worship of their family deity Madhukeswara Shiva at Mukhalingam. The early Kadambas issued their records from Kalinga Nagara, the political headquarters of the overlords, but the later members of the family issued their charters from Jayantipura, which was apparently named after Vaijantipura, the headquarters of the western Kadambas. This is similarly, the early Kadambas preferred to use the Ganga era, but in the later records they used the Ganga Kadamba era. This is indicative of their ascendancy in political power and influence in Ganga administration. Hence, in all fitness of things, it may be conjectured that the Kadamba chiefs of Kalinga, who ruled over a portion of Kalinga kingdom, may be called as Eastern Kadambas of Kalinga. Thank you.